Testing. Are we back? I think we're back. Let me get James back on the line here. Don't know what happened there with my internet. Just hey. Okay. So, I don't know what that connection dropout is, but we are live on the show now. So,
All right. What's up?
not much, man. Thank you for joining me here just for this quick little rundown. We wanted to talk a little bit about the Scott Linehan firing, talk about a couple potential offensive coordinators Dallas could look at, and pictured here behind me on the screen, pretty much got the featured guy that everyone seems to be saying now went from a fringe candidate to pretty much the favorite, Kellen Moore. James, first of all, what are your thoughts on the situation with Linehan?
I mean, we talked about it before, our last show we had together. We had talked about it was going to most likely happen.
Mm-hmm.
When the season was over, Jerry said there wasn't going to be changes, or Jason didn't expect any changes. But I think it was just the status quo. It was just to, keep everybody at bay until they kind of made their decision. But it was something that was in the air, and it was going to have to happen because you just could not see him coming back another season with the offense the way it was, the ranking the way it was, the issues, the fans, the problems. It was kind of just like, probably kind of like Scott Linehan when they kind of had a mutual decision where, I just kind of don't want to deal with this anymore. This is best that we just move on. And I think it's best for all parties. And so I'm just waiting to see what's going to happen. I heard something in the air already that it's going to be in-house, and that's the way Dallas seems to do it.
Yep.
I know we brought Chris Richard out of the fold from Seattle, but they like to do a lot of in-house hiring. They bring you in, and then they kind of groom you. And if they feel like you're the guy that they want to do, they're going to put you in that position.
Absolutely, absolutely. Ryan Gingler says, "What's up to you?" in the comments, James.
What's up, big dog?
Yes, sir. So, yeah, I agree. And we were talking, like you said, before I went on my vacation this past week, we were talking about how there's no way they bring him back. And then, of course, right as, like, literally in the minutes before I'm walking out the door Monday to leave for the trip, Garrett goes on 105.3 The Fan, says he doesn't expect any changes, expects Scott to be back for offensive coordinator next year. I had about a 5-minute meltdown on my way out the door. I was like, I can't deal with this. And thankfully, by the time I was getting back into town the following Friday, it had all kind of sorted itself back out where it's like, no, he is gone. Don't worry about that. He is gone. And as you said, Jerry, earlier today at the, I believe, Senior Bowl, implied that he didn't offer a lot of clarification. He basically said there's no rush for them to make any kind of decision. But he did allude that he likes the guys they have in-house when compared to going out of house for searching. So, Stephen Jones, I know, also suggested that really it sounds like it is going to be in-house, and it sounds like titles are the only things they're still figuring out. We know they have added John Kitna now to the staff. Apparently that is a done deal. It's not like before when I wrote this morning about the whole situation, I talked about it being the expected move that's being talked about. Sounds like it's actually now already come to fruition, so that part of the article aged well, of course. And so I like the addition of Kitna, and he'll likely be the quarterback coach, but if you're moving him to quarterback coach, then that's going to make the unpopular, or at least 50-50. I see some people trying to look at this in a bright side kind of way. The all likelihood of Kellen Moore elevating straight to offensive coordinator after 1 year as a coach. He's 30 years old, and he's already going to be potentially the offensive coordinator. I know we talk about getting young, fresh perspectives in there in the coaching staff, but do you think that's overdoing it a little bit?
Well, I mean, I'm on the fence on both sides right now. The inexperience, that's a big, huge glare. 30 years old, hasn't, never did it before. But, I mean, when we see a lot of these great innovators that happen, didn't they get a start like this? I mean, didn't they get a start where they were young and had a mind and needed a chance and just show what they can do? I'm not sitting there saying I'm gung-ho for Kellen Moore, but I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, well, that's just the worst decision in the world. No, that's terrible. No, I'm not going to say that because him and Dak do get along. I don't think Dak Prescott is lying about how they really vibe. He thinks he's a really good mind. I
Mm-hmm.
think he's a good offensive mind as well. And me and Tyson West Coast did a show Sunday, and I was alluding to the fact that a lot of people I feel like have Kellen Moore a bad taste in the mouth because of Scott Linehan. His association, because Scott Linehan handpicked him in his association, and because everybody has that disdain for Scott Linehan, and since he handpicked Kellen Moore, people are naturally hating on Kellen Moore. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? They're hating on him, but Kellen Moore has not done anything wrong in the situation. And I do think my thing about with the Kellen Moore is this: people are hating on him because he didn't do anything in the pros. That's not his fault that he was 6 foot, 180 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not his fault that he physically he couldn't do it. It's not that he couldn't do it mentally. Physically, he couldn't do it. Physically, he did not have the tools to play in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I watched him at Boise State. He was a
50
monster.
and 3.
At Boise State. Yes, he was a monster at Boise State, and they ran a very, very complex, complicated offense when he was there. But he could handle it. Son of a coach. I mean, and I see a lot of positives. The negatives is yes, the age and the experience. But as I said before, if that were to happen, I wouldn't be like, oh man, that's terrible. Give the kid a chance. I mean, all we look at McVay and these young guys that are out here balling out as head coaches, and they're young. Nobody's saying nothing about them. Oh, they're too young. They're going in there. If he goes in there and they have a great year, nobody's going to care about that age any longer.
Yeah, I think you make a great point, particularly about his association with Linehan is almost what hurts him in this case. And even in that situation, I don't think the Scott Linehan we got here in Dallas is the same Scott Linehan that was in Detroit.
Right.
In Detroit,
In
Detroit, they were way pass happy, way more innovative. I think he was neutered effectively by Jason Garrett's offense. I think Garrett basically said, "Yeah, okay, I'm not running the offense anymore," which he hasn't done since 2013. I'm not running the offense anymore, but you're still effectively going to run our philosophy and keep within our confines. And that's part of what we detailed about why we felt it was time to move on from Garrett. That doesn't look like in all likelihood it's happening at this point. But with Linehan, I felt like maybe to some extent he was too willing to go along with that for what Garrett wanted, and as a result of that, it hurt him and his own kind of resume over the last few years, because the offenses in Dallas never put up huge numbers, and he's kind of tied to, okay, you had the league's leading rusher 2 out of those 3 years, a quarterback who made 2 Pro Bowls, you had a couple Pro Bowl wide receivers between Dez and Amari. And, you know what I mean? Like, you just kind of look at it and you're like, oh, that doesn't feel great for Scott Linehan. But it is what it is. I agree that in his case, yeah, it was best for both parties to move on. As it pertains to Moore, he was 50 and 3 as a college starter, which is absurd. And even in those 3 losses, I think all 3 were by a field goal, and 2 of them were like missed field goals by the Boise State kicker. So, I think he's a bright mind. I mean, if you remember seeing him on the John Gruden quarterback camp segment thing he would do before the draft back when he worked for ESPN, some of those are pretty cheesy, I think. But I mean, you see the mind there, and just because he doesn't have the ability to do it, he didn't have this long great career in the NFL. I get it. He only had like 2 or 3 starts, all of which were with the Cowboys in his career, and yeah, like you said, that's his physical abilities holding him back, not his mind. And you don't have to have been a Tom Brady or a Peyton Manning or someone like that to be able to coach. I mean, look at Doug Peterson for Philadelphia. I mean, he didn't do a whole lot as a quarterback in the league. He was just a backup for several years.
He didn't do anything in the NFL, and look what happens. A lot of times when you see these coaches or these players that become coaches, I mean, a lot of them aren't the ones that were the stars. A lot of them were the guys that were maybe the fringe players or, good players. But a lot of those times those guys had to fight and they had to study and they had to do other things because naturally they couldn't do like a superstar could. So they had to look at other parts of the game, and that made them study and even more. So that's where you can see the coach coming out of them, because you have to really study, because you don't have the physical abilities of that star that
you got to work even harder.
You got to work even harder. You have to study even more. So they become more even. I'm not saying that the stars aren't students of the game, but I believe they become more students of the game because of they see the limitations they have, and I see that could be that could have happened with Kellen Moore. I believe he already had a mind, but then he knew he wasn't a guy that was going to be a starter in the NFL.
Yeah.
But he also had to know that, you know what, I do have an offensive mind. And, you know, as much as we hate on Scott Linehan, I think he did see that. And like I said, I'm not bashing this idea. You know, we posted it, and I've seen a lot of people hate on him. And as I said, I think it's just the Scott Linehan. If Scott Linehan was never in this, if he was never in this, he never handpicked him, then I don't think we'd be killing Kellen Moore as much.
I do think there would be some apprehension just because of his coaching inexperience. But the other point I was going to make earlier, kind of to the counter side, we were talking about how if you're not one of those phenomenally talented players and you're, you know, kind of like a Kellen Moore, a career backup or whatever, that you have to study harder just to keep up because you don't have those physical abilities keeping you around. I think the opposite is kind of true as well, where sometimes you have those guys who, if they're just such naturals, it doesn't matter if they're even an all-time great. They can't make the change into coaching because for them it just comes naturally to some degree for some of the stuff they do, and it's not as easy to instruct or to coach a player on some of the like finer nuances to the game. So that's
I get that too.
yeah, exactly. So I think if they do go with him, yeah, I do have some apprehension about his inexperience, but the other development that comes with this, Chris Mortensen reporting right on the heels of once we heard that Kellen Moore was the front runner now for the job. Right on the heels of that, you have Chris Mortensen chiming in saying that Jason Garrett will be taking not necessarily completely over play calling duties, but a much bigger hand in play calling next year, which to me already, if that's true, that already kills any real notion of bringing in someone from the outside, because why would you want to come to Dallas if they've already made up their mind that Garrett's going to be meddling in what you're doing? You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Well, you know what? The thing is, that's why they keep a lot of the stuff in-house, because they want people to believe their philosophy. And if you're not really believing that philosophy, it's not going to really work for you, because it's one kind of mind up in there, and they're having the one. So that's why they're probably not going to look outside, because if they look outside and somebody comes in and says, I have these ideas, well, they're already, you know how Jerry is.
Mm-hmm.
And just like you said, and Jason is the extension of him. So, yes, they're going to force their hand on what they want to run and what they want seen. So that's why it'd be easier for them to morph into a Kellen Moore as a coach or the offensive coordinator, because it's already the same philosophy, just maybe different concepts. And then you also, Jason Garrett has done play calling. So you don't think Jason Garrett is going to help Kellen Moore along the way? You have a John Kitna as the quarterbacks coach. You don't think a Kitna is going to probably, you know, have some influence because of the years, 16 years in the NFL, played those years with Dallas, was a, you know, fiery guy, was a coach in high school, had just got offered a job right before he took the Cowboys job. So that experience is going to kind of morph around Kellen Moore, and I think that's what they're going to use as a counter, is that, you know, we have the tight ends coach Doug Nusselmeyer, we have Jason Garrett, we have John Kitna. They have a lot of experience with the offensive philosophies, so I feel like they're going to try to just basically groom him and help him along the way, kind of just like Jerry was when Jason Garrett came over and took Dallas. And when he was a young guy, he was kind of like a little hot commodity, but Jerry wanted to groom him the same kind of way.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Yeah, I suspect they'll have some additional hire as well. There'll be another position coach maybe to the staff that they do, and they'll have to figure out how they want to call titles and all of that. You know, for all we know, they'll make Kitna I love the Kitna hire, for the record. I thought he was very good as a backup quarterback for Dallas when he was here. I think he's one of those very blue-collar worker guys that guys will actually care and fight for. Garrett got the head coaching job. You know, when he took over as the interim, it was Kitna that led them to winning 5 of the last 8 for Garrett to get the job full-time. So there's familiarity there, and that hire among these other shifts I think we're seeing, and Garrett taking on a bigger piece of the play calling in the next year, I think all of that turns up where, as long as Dallas doesn't extend him this offseason like we were initially told was probably going to happen, it pretty much makes next year a completely bank on yourself year for Garrett. Like, he has nothing left to hide behind, because we were even saying, oh, well, he's got the Linehan excuse, and that's why he doesn't want to take over play calling mid-year. That's out of the window now because Linehan's gone, and you're taking back on the coaching, the offensive play calling responsibility a little bit. So interesting.
Well, like I said, we're going to see what happens with that because, Jason, and I said it before, I don't know if it's a superstitious thing, but I said Jason Garrett always does good in the even years and he doesn't do good in the odd years. Well, his even years, 2014, 2016, 2018, all 3 division titles those years.
Are you trying to stamp out any excitement we have for 2019?
I'm not going to be quiet about that, but I'm just saying it's the odd year. And his odd years, they haven't been great.
Yeah, no, I get you. They've got a lot they have to figure out. But here's the thing: if they don't extend him this summer, he can't afford for 2019 to be a backwards year. Right. There's what I hate about the Garrett situation is there's always some kind of excuse, right? It's always, oh well, the Dez catch taken away, whatever happened. Okay, that's our excuse for why we didn't go further. 15, everyone was injured. All right, I'll give you 15 just because literally Dez, Romo, like 3 or 4 other guys, significant guys, got hurt too. So whatever, throw out 15. 16, to me, there was no excuse in 16, but then they would probably say, oh, well, it was a young team, and this just proves that 15 was a throwout. 14, 16, see, we haven't missed a beat. Then we have last year 17, a disaster, but then they blame that on the Zeke suspension. And yeah, that might cost them making the playoffs last year, but it didn't ever feel like a team that was gelling in a way that you would be like, oh yeah, that's a team that's dangerous if they get there. Now this year,
that was a throwaway season last year, and we all knew it.
Yeah,
we knew as soon as Zeke was suspended, our season was over.
We know that. Do they know that?
Well, they had to. If we knew it, they had to know it because just like when. As soon as Romo got hurt in that Philly game, we knew the season was over.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 15, yeah.
Teams hit that ground, and they seen them laying there, and they said, season's over.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But, yeah, they have to figure out something for that because they can't keep coming up with excuses. You know what I mean? Like, you can't have one. I mean, look at, and I hate pointing to this just because, obviously, it's the Eagles, and we hate them. But their Super Bowl run, how many significant starters did they lose, including the damn quarterback?
Right.
And they were able to persevere.
And they really didn't have the run game.
Yep. It was just coaching.
It's the coaching. And I hear when people say, coaches coach and players play. Players, a coach can execute it, but if the player is not executing, that's not the coach's fault. And that is so true. I mean, that is true. If you watch the film, if the coach calls this play and it's not being executed and this guy holding or he didn't come out on the block in time or this and that, then we can't blame the coach. But this is what I can say. I posted a video immediately after the Cowboys lost that game the next day to the Rams, and I posted a video. It was March 25th. I got the date memorized. It was March 25th, and I was basically – and G asked me the question, should Garrett go after this season? I said, well, what's going to happen if we go 11-5? I was close. That was in March. I said, what happens if we go 11-5?
You kind of got it if you include the playoff win.
And I did. I said, what we're going to do if we go 11-5 and we win a playoff game, what is the hierarchy going to do? Mm-hmm. Are we going to do like Marvin Lewis and keep on continuing to keep the guy, or are we going to do like they did with Malarkey with the Tennessee Titans? Have a season where you come back, you win the division, you win a playoff game, and then you get axed. You know what I'm saying? That's what I wanted to see what was going to really happen. And I felt like if we had that record and only win a playoff game and get knocked out, that he should be replaced. Obviously, that's not going to happen because of the situation, how that happened. But if you look at it, to me, when you saw those Giants go on those runs, when you saw the Steelers go on those runs when they were having the improbable, there are 4 games out of all 500, and it's looking like their season's over, and they go on a run and win like 7, 8 in a row, get in the playoffs. Those teams, here's the difference between us and them. Those teams will rattle off 7 or 8, save their season, get in the playoffs, play all the games on the road or whatever, and guess what? They make the run all the way through and get there and to the Super Bowl.
I think they stay aggressive.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's almost like the season that we had, it didn't matter.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So it was great that we was 3-5 and we battled back and won 7-8 or 8-9. That's great, right? Mm-hmm. It's great that we battled back and won the NFC East title. That's awesome. But guess what? we're still watching.
Yeah. We still haven't won a divisional round matchup in 23 years.
23 years. 95, we haven't won on the road since 93. You get what I'm saying? So
yeah.
That's almost, to me, like a wasted season. We can't look back and say right now, oh, well, we were 3-5, we won the title. Nobody cares about that because we didn't even make it to the NFC Championship.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. It's better for us in the sense that we talk about the team. So obviously, if they had continued bottoming out after 3-5, it would have been a microphone. You hear me? Can you hear me, James? Testing, testing. How is it registering the mic now? All right. Calling an audible. All right. You hear me, James? Hello? Dang it. Okay, so the stream can hear me, James cannot. Let me make... Oh, you do hear me. Okay, cool. Alright, let me double check this setting here, make sure they can hear you.
I'm just telling you.
Okay.
Crystal clear.
Mike probably sounds a little weird now, but we're back up and running, so... yeah, I lost track of what my point was that I was working on, but generally just happy for Dak to bounce back and make another Pro Bowl. And for Amari Cooper, it's cool for him that his numbers were really pedestrian to start the year, and he gets over to Dallas. If there's any more reason for him to want to stay, you got to think he gets that, getting to the playoffs, winning a game, and making another Pro Bowl. It's got to seem like this is everything he wants as far as somewhere he wants to stay.
Well, I mean, it all comes down to this, DDP, and I said it time and time again, and that's why, when me and G did the play-by-play game with the Rams, I was proud of the team, the way they fought, because even as bad as the defense played, we still had a chance to win in the last minutes of the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, up until the very last minute of the game, we were still in there. So I can be happy about that it wasn't a blowout. And as bad as the D played, we gave up record numbers. We still were there. We still could have won that game. But the frustration is that you have that we get there, we battle, but it's still short. You know what I mean? And I just G walked off it was funny because he walked off the play-by-play. He was just frustrated. He's like, I'm done. I wasn't as mad because, as I said before, the season and last year, I said we weren't going to win the title with Garrett. And I'm not trying to be the pessimistic guy with it. I just didn't feel like we're going to win the title with him. And I don't know if we're going to win the title with Jerry. I feel like it had to be under Stevens because I just don't see, if you watch as the apex of sports, Where have you seen an owner who goes on a big run when he first gets into the league, big run, wins Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowls out of 4 years, and all of a sudden you go on a dry run of 23 years, and all of a sudden you're going to start winning Super Bowls again? That just happens in the lore of sports, and especially where there's always some kind of meddling in there. When you see the Rams getting there, you see the owners don't meddle. You don't never hear about none of their owners, and I'm not hating on Jerry, but it's just the truth. You don't hear about their owners talking or anything like that. They give the money, they put the people in the positions, they stay out the way, and they let them work. And that's why you see success. That doesn't happen with us because there's always some drama and always some meddling. And when there's always some meddling and a person can't really do their job, it's like with me. I'm going to use myself an example. If I first go to work, DDP, right? And I'm working under you, and you give me the job to do, right? All right, Jay, I want you to do this, this, and this, and this. Okay, boom. You tell me how to do it. But then every 5 minutes or something like that, you coming over there checking on me. Wherever, you always meddling and can I do my job? You know what I'm saying? Can I try to work and do my job? But I can't never do nothing because you always over my shoulder meddling. You told me, you gave me the blueprint to do what I need to do. But when I go do the blueprint, you trying to help me every step of the way. I can't get my job fully done because I can't really do what I need to do because I know you're always there. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like that's what it is with the Cowboys. They can't really do what they want because Jerry and the influence is so heavy. It's so heavy. That's why they hire from within and they don't hire from the outside because people from the outside, your ideas are going to get squashed when you come up in here.
Yeah, no, I agree. Definitely, it is something where Jerry has had a history of kind of meddling with the team. I would say if I had to reach for some kind of silver lining in that, as far as us potentially winning again, winning another title, I would say it probably lies with the fact that they're kind of slowly pushing him back into the corner of things, and I have a little more faith in at least Steven to kind of help them as far as delivering that. And with that all going that way, I mean, think about it compared to 2007. Jerry hired Jason Garrett before he even interviewed for the vacant head coaching job. Like that's meddling when you're already telling potential new coach, hey, I don't care who you want, this is who I'm saying you have. And the fact that he's letting Garrett do all of this now, I think it's a double-edged sword. I think it's on one hand showing potential learning from maybe previous mistakes on the organization's part, and at the same time it's like saying to Jason, all right, I'll give you all the rope you need, but just understand, whether it's the rope to help you work or it's the rope that hangs you, it's going to kind of go that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you already know if you're getting hired under Jerry, that's what's going to happen. That's why a lot of people don't come to Dallas. People try to, the facilities, he has a love and a passion. He does. I can't say he doesn't. I know he has a love and a passion, so I can't even doubt that. And the facilities are top-notch, second to none. But I'm sorry, a lot of coaches probably aren't beating down the door to come and deal with Jerry because they know that they're going to have to deal with that meddling. And if I was a coach and I wanted to build the team that I wanted, I would want full control. I would want to put the team together the way I wanted to so I could have my imprint. And if I couldn't have that and I had an owner that was always basically kind of directing what I wanted to do, there's going to be frustration on my end, and I'm not going to be able to feel like I'm truly coaching the way I want. Now, Garrett is under him, and they have that bond, so maybe that doesn't affect Garrett, and that's why he is there. But I feel like coaches from the outside don't want to deal with that because they are going to see that on a daily basis. That's why he's the president, general manager, and the owner.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see how this turns out. I'm curious. They don't seem to be in any rush to fill the offensive coordinator position, but they have suggested it's going to come from an internal thing. So it's just a matter of figuring out the titles at this point, and we know that they obviously are bringing in John Kitna. I do like that hire. But we'll see. Hopefully, this is one of the reasons, for Garrett, these feel like ho-hum hires, which to me says that the organization is placing a lot of trust in them because we know how much Jerry likes to make splashy moves, be it in the draft or in coaching, job searches and all that. So, Richard was a fairly splashy move just because of the reputation of the Seahawks defense and coming in knowing oh, this guy's supposed to be the architect of the Legion of Boom, huh? Yeah. hell yeah, I want that guy on our staff. Like
Right.
that's a splashy move. So the fact that they're going this route to me kind of suggests that on some level they're like, okay, Jason, we're gonna roll this back one more time your way, and let's see what you do with it. Because now the excuses are gone. So we'll see. By the way, if
Well,
anyone wants,
remember he saved himself in 2014 because remember they were talking about his contract was coming up then.
yep,
Remember, and he was having the consecutive 8-8 seasons, and we were remember every game of those 8-8 seasons we were in there the last game of the year for the playoffs. Every game of the last year we could have made the playoffs and we didn't do it. So he had that fire and that pressure on him to have a good record because they were saying the same thing about him then. If he didn't have a good record, he was possibly going to be out. So now it's come again full circle in 2019, the way it was going into the 2014 season. And he always seems to come out on top. So we'll see what happens. But my thing is playoff wins is just not good enough now. You know, we have a team that is not just good enough to make the playoffs and just win a playoff game. We have the team that can win multiple games, and we have a team that can make it to a Super Bowl. We have a team that can make it to the run, make it there. We have a defense doesn't need parts. Yes, things were exposed, but we have enough players so you can just add pieces. You get what I'm saying? You don't have to pull a full overhaul. We've been having those pieces in places for a little bit now, even with Romo. But yet, even with Romo, we said we should have had it then. We're going into the 2019 season 5 years later with those players that we have in place, and we still haven't did anything. So that's the concerning part to me, even going forward. You can hire John Kitna, you can put offensive coordinators in place, but at the end of the day, we have to get over the hump because too many times we're just good, but we're not good enough. And that can't be happening when you have the talent to beat any kind of team in the NFC or the AFC.
yeah, I agree wholeheartedly there. So we'll head into kind of the wrap up on this here, just because I'm still a little under the weather. My voice is still a little bit shot. And we've had some technical issues with the stream as well. Thankfully, everything's up and running smoothly now. James, tell them where they can find you.
Seven Blue Nation, baby. Me and DDP, we've been doing these shows, so make sure you check us out every Sunday. The time is probably going to be about 1 or 2 p.m. Eastern time. We will be on the Cowboys Experience. Make sure you check that out. DDP, you're going to be on this show too. But we'll be having those Sunday shows. Big Game James page. You can follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Seven Blue Nation. If you'd like to donate to the cause, Seven Blue Nation, Patreon.com. As low as $1, helps support the nation and continue to give the best footage out there. So another great show for me. Appreciate you, DDP, for hitting me up, and I like always working with you, big dog.
No problem at all. Always a pleasure to work with you and everything. Even with the Maverick stuff, as the Cowboys season now is wrapped up, once we get past the Super Bowl, we'll be doing that. So.
Luka over there killing it, man. Like I said, just to throw a quick piece out there. I told you, DDP, about this though, didn't I? Didn't I tell you, DDP? I posted I told you exactly how this is going to happen. I just want to get 2 cents on this because I told you Dennis Smith Jr. was going to have a problem playing off the ball with Luka because he's ball dominant and he wasn't going to know how to play in that role. And I told you, and that's what's happening.
Yep, I think he's also getting some bad advice from his advisor as an agent, but I think he can adapt to the role, but it's going to take more time for sure. But that's something we'll have to explore further in a Mavs stream for sure. But
for sure.
Yeah. But for those interested in the article I talked about that I wrote this morning, the Garrett article, it is on DallasSportsFanatic.com. With Garrett set to potentially reclaim play calling duties, pressure to succeed will be greater than ever. And for those interested in the Mavericks Dennis Smith saga, I did an article this morning on that as well, also on DallasSportsFanatic.com, all about the Dennis Smith thing, the saga, and whether or not the Mavericks can salvage that relationship. So if you haven't already, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, all that. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, everything like that. We also have a Patreon if you want to support us. Anything helps and goes right back into the site and channel. So beyond that, we will be back Sunday. And in the meantime, I'm going to be working on some new great content for you guys. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And until next time, remember, every legend was once a prospect. Salute.
Peace.